Hello, and welcome back to Farm Life and Freedom, where we are cultivating a free life. Hey everyone, welcome back to Farm Life and Freedom podcast. I'm your host, Amy Bell. This week on episode 3, we are going to be talking about companion planting, as promised. Last time we talked about the beginnings, getting started on your gardens, planting everything, doing your soil testing, and getting your soil ready to go. Well, this week we're going to talk about when you're ready to put those plants in the ground, you've got to know where they're going to go and what would be best for them. And that's what brings up companion planting. I want to start with what companion planting is. Some people have heard about it, not really sure about it. Some people haven't even heard about it. So I'm just going to start here with what it is. Companion planting it's a gardening wisdom that says when certain plants are planted together, in combination, then they help each other grow or they are beneficial to each other in some way. And so that's the first thing I'm going to do is talk about some of the benefits. But I do want to give you an example, one that I'm sure every one of you have heard. Even back in grade school, I remember talking about this when we were talking about, I don't know, the Pilgrims or something on the first Thanksgiving. I don't know. I remember talking about this from a long, long time ago. Okay, so 3 sisters. That's the corn, beans, and squash that grow together. That's been talked about for such a long time because it's something that, from what I remember, from what I understand, Native Americans used to do this early on. They learned that some plants, when grown together, help the others. Well, we're going to talk a little bit deeper about that and understanding why. I think it's so important to understand why to do something. That's how I do with my homeschooling and honestly with my parenting. When you are learning something, if you learn why it's a thing or learn why you're supposed to do that, it helps it stick better. You can connect the two. So we're going to talk about why. Corn is a tall, skinny plant, and it is a heavy feeder. So it needs a lot of resources. What goes well with a heavy feeding corn? Well, pole beans are a legume, and legumes add nitrogen back to the soil. They're nitrogen-fixing plants. They take in the resources and they add them to the soil. So it gives the corn something that it needs. Well, what can the corn offer the beans? Well, pole beans need a trellis. They need something to grow on. And it makes it a perfect symbiotic relationship because then the corn has something to offer the beans. Now, there's one other part of the 3 sisters, and that's the squashes. Well, their job in this little mix is to cover the ground. Squashes, most of them are vining. They all have big leaves, and they can shade the area. So they shade the soil. They keep the moisture in, kind of like a living mulch, basically. And they also shade out weeds. They kind of work together, helping each other. That is the basis of what companion planting is. And I believe that God put these plants here for a specific reason. He put them here to feed us. He put them here to do other things. They all have their own jobs. They do certain things. And when you figure out which ones do what and you put them together in ways that can help each other, they're doing their natural thing. We're not having to add chemicals to fix this problem or fix that problem. We're letting the plant life do it on its own. That's part of organic gardening. I said before, there's no judgment. I'm not trying to push anyone into, quote unquote, organic gardening. I myself, because I don't like paying the government for anything they don't need money for, and I am not an organic gardener, quote unquote. I am a natural gardener. I do things as naturally as possible. And companion planting allows me to do that. For instance, if I'm having problems with a specific pest, I can choose a plant that will work in combination with another plant to help ward off that pest or maybe help trap that pest. And I'm going to explain that. So right now we're going to go into the benefits of companion planting. And if you hear a lot of paper rustling, I apologize because I can't remember everything to just quote. I do my research and I like paper. So I've got everything written down or in binders or what have you. And I've got a few pulled out here in front of me so that I can make sure and remember to give you guys all of the information that you need. Okay. One of the benefits of companion planting is attracting beneficial insects. Obviously, we want to talk about the pollinators, bees and whatnot. You have to have these things to pollinate your plants so that you can gather a harvest. But that's not the only insects that you want to bring in. And there are certain plants that help really attract those, like predatory insects, things that will come in, the good bugs, and they go in and they eat the bad bugs. Prime example of that is ladybugs. You want to bring ladybugs into your garden because aphids are a problem, as far as I know, everywhere. I've never been any place where aphids weren't a problem. And ladybugs eat aphids. Now, that's not the only way that you can get rid of aphids, but it's a terrific way that nature provides to get rid of those little suckers. So that's one of the benefits that companion planting offers. Now, along those same lines, so instead of just attracting good bugs, so there are plants out there that will repel or deter pests. For instance, anything that is really strongly scented, really pungent, like onions and garlic, some of the herbs that are really strong. It doesn't even have to be a bad smell. Mint is a really strong smelling herb, and it will help deter certain pests. So that's one of the benefits. So it's not just that they attract beneficial insects, it's also that they help deter or repel them. And we'll get into a little bit more of that. Now, one of the other ways that this works is called trap cropping, using a specific plant to attract bad bugs away from the crops that you're trying to grow. Nasturtium, the flowers are edible. They're really pretty. You can put them on a salad. They're kind of peppery, kind of like a radish is. It's really great to go on a salad. You can use them in a variety of different ways, though. And trap cropping is one because they attract bad bugs, but they attract them away from the other plants. It's like the bad bugs look at them and go, hey, I would rather have that thing there. So you plant basically a sacrificial crop. So you're going to throw away the nasturtium, or at least the part of it it gets infected in order to get rid of those pests. But it's there specifically to keep those pests from getting on your main crop, which might be, tomatoes or whatever. So that's one thing. Now, you can also look at companion planting for weed control. And the way that works is when you are doing companion planting, you can plant more in a smaller area because you're planting different things that need different elements closer together. For instance, my tomatoes, they're tall, they've got a deep root system, and I can plant all around them. I can plant lettuce all over the place. I can plant onions. Both of those have shallow root systems, and they're up, towards the surface. So the tomatoes and the lettuce, what have you, they're not competing with each other. So the lettuce, for certain, can spread all over that bed around the tomatoes, and it can shade out or push out weeds that might grow there. So that makes it terrific for weed control. And that's just simply because you can plant these things closer together when you think about what works well together, what can help each other in some way. One of the other ways that companion planting can help you is helping with your soil. Last time we talked about, testing the pH of your soil, amending it with whatever natural element might help it in order to get you to the correct pH level, adding organic matter to your soil. making sure that it's up to par for the plants that you want to plant there. And companion planting really helps you with that kind of thing because as you are pulling things out of the soil, you are also adding things back in. It doesn't just fully deplete your soil. And that's a big deal because every year you're having to test and add, and doing it this way helps you to balance that. Now, you still need to do your testing and you still need to do whatever amendments are necessary, but companion planting, if done properly, will keep that to a minimum. Something else along those same lines, different root vegetables offer different things. Carrot, their roots are longer and they can pull nutrients from different levels and bring them up to the surface. One of my absolute favorites is basil. Now, I grow a lot of tomatoes and I will always grow a bunch of peppers. Well, basil is a fantastic herb to grow with your tomatoes and peppers. And actually, tomatoes and peppers can grow together, and basil will help both of them. It helps them to grow better and it helps them to taste better. When I grow basil with my tomatoes or with my peppers, I have a better harvest, a better flavored harvest, healthier plants. And I will never not grow basil with my tomatoes and peppers. That was in my mind. I will never forget that one. Something else, though, that is a great plant to plant kind of across the board everywhere is marigolds. Now, I'm not one that particularly likes marigolds. My daughter does. I know a lot of people do. I think they're ugly, personally. There are much prettier flowers out there, but spider mites like them. And so they draw away those from other plants. Marigolds actually do a whole lot more than just that, but they are fantastic to have just basically scattered throughout your garden. I plant them on the corners and of all my beds, down the middle if it's a really long bed. And then I just kind of throw them, just scatter them out everywhere, making sure that they're not overcrowding anything. But other than that, I just let them grow. They can just grow all they want to. That's a terrific one. Companion planting is something that, you learn a little bit every time you do it. You don't have to be overwhelmed when you start getting into companion planting. It seems a little bit overwhelming if you've never done it, but I suggest starting out kind of slow. Starting with your main crops, research them. Let's say you do tomatoes and peppers. Well, start with the tomatoes. Research what the companion plants are that help tomatoes grow, whether, grow bigger, grow better, taste sweeter. Look at the companion plants for your main crop and what helps it to grow. Find those. And then the next thing you want to look at is what companion plants would grow with a tomato to help ward off its biggest pest, tomato hornworms, right? That's a big one for tomatoes. Well, what you'll find, just so you know, for one, basil grows fantastic with tomatoes. It helps them grow better. It helps them taste sweeter. Borage is a terrific flowering herb that helps not only bring in pollinators, but it also helps to defend against tomato hornworm. I do not believe that it's possible to fully get rid of those suckers, but keeping their numbers down that's a win. So putting those plants together, using that combination will really help your tomatoes. Now, there's one little thing on there, a little caveat. When you're looking at the companions for your crops, you want to look usually down at the bottom of their little chart or something off to the side. It's going to say something like foes or don't plant near this. So some plants have certain specific plants that you don't want to put them near. And that could be because they share the same disease characteristics. It could be because they attract the same pests. I know corn and tomatoes, you don't really want to have those very close together because they do attract the same pests. So you want to try to limit that. It could be because they will compete for the same nutrients. So you don't want to put those two in the same bed, near each other, because you're going to have a hard time feeding them both. Now, one of the best things about companion planting is the fact that it allows you to take care of your garden, make them the healthiest, get the absolute best harvest possible without having to use chemicals, without having to spend tons of extra money on all this other stuff at the garden center to buy and pour on your plants. It's about letting nature do that job for you. I'm a big believer on the fact that if we would stop intervening, nature takes care of things the way it's supposed to. Nature has a way of taking care of itself, and the strongest things survive. The strongest things get stronger, right? People bring in weed killers and bug killers and all that, and we're making it harder for nature to do its job. What is its job? Let's see. Bees have a job of pollinating plants so that we can get a harvest. And then they carry that pollen back to their hive, and they do their little thing. They make the honey. We collect the honey. Those pollinated plants then grow and give us food to eat, right? Well, then there's the other plants that, when planted nearby, do their job. And their job is to get rid of or pull away the bugs that are there to attack that plant that's going to feed us. If we would just listen to nature, let nature take its course, things would be so much better. Things could naturally grow. And they're less expensive that way too. If you have to go to the garden center and buy, countless chemical fertilizers and bug killers and all that, not only are you spending a lot of money, but you're also hurting yourself, because you can't just kill the bad bugs. You're also going to kill the good bugs. And that's a problem. That's a real problem. It's best to learn to live with nature and let the plants take care of it for you. It's less expensive, it's less work, and gets you a much better product. Every year, by the end of the season, or by the middle of the season, I've got a couple of dozen of these graph papers where I've drawn out my gardens. I draw them out. I typically do a big, wide view of everything, and then I start zooming in and doing smaller views. And I write down in all of them. In the beginning, I write down my plan. This is where I'm going to plant this, this, and this. This is what I'm going to plant with it. And of course, as things go, and maybe I run out of one thing and I have to, substitute with a different companion, I jot that down. It's really important to keep track of where you are planting what, for crop rotation purposes, or also so that you can keep track of what helped your plants better than others. So science says that they don't really agree with companion planting because they can't prove it. So they kind of poo-poo it a little bit. We're not going to buy into this companion planting thing. We're just going to use pesticides and herbicides and all that. You can go to the garden store and spend big money and purchase these things. Or you could listen to what gardeners have said for as long as I've been alive, and I'm sure way, way longer, on the fact that companion planting really does work. So, you take your pick there, you choose who to listen to. But I can tell you that after the past 3 years that we've lived, I don't really give the science people a lot of credit these days. That's just me, okay? Maybe it's not just me. But moving on. Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about specifics. Okay, now if I was going to sit here and try to give you guys the big list of everything that grows with everything, we'd be here for days. There's so much. My suggestion is do your research. Start with your main crops and go from there. Test out your companion. See if you like doing it. See if it's something that will work for you. There's so many reasons to do it. And it's not as hard and not as overwhelming as it seems. And I think you'll find that it's actually a lot easier and a lot less expensive to go with these methods instead of just, you know, hoe in a row, throwing in your tomatoes and hoping for the best. Plus, all the chemicals. I'm just going to give you guys a few examples of some of the really great combinations, some of my favorites. And I've already mentioned the tomatoes and basil. I will never not grow tomatoes and basil together. I love that. Cucumbers, there's one. Okay, cucumbers and black eyed peas are great together. They take the same kind of care, and that makes them, good to grow near each other. But I grow chamomile with my cucumbers because it adds several different things, but the pollinators love chamomile, and your cucumbers are constantly needing to be pollinated. There's always lots of blossoms, and if they don't get pollinated, it just doesn't turn into a pickle. Eventually a pickle. But if you don't plant something nearby that brings in a lot of pollinators, then you're going to have problems with getting a decent harvest on your cucumbers. Chamomile is terrific for that, and it also wards off certain different pests. So I always put chamomile with my cucumbers. They say if it tastes good together, then it probably grows good together. And I think for the most part that does hold up. And for instance, you can have a salsa garden, and basically all of the main ingredients in salsa grow really well together. Tomatoes, peppers, onions, cilantro, all of those things grow really well together. You could put them all together and they would work really well. So that's something to consider. Spinach is one of those things. Of course, it's kind of a cool weather crop. You don't want to try and grow it through the heat of the summer because it will bolt on you. But spinach will work a lot like lettuce. It's, low growing, and it can be a kind of a living mulch, help shade an area on the soil. And it can work in that way with a lot of different plants. Tomatoes is one. Now, you hear me talk about tomatoes a lot because I grow a lot of tomatoes, but I think a lot of people do. And so that's one of the ones that I think is really important to know about. Planting flowers as companion, that's a big deal. When you plant flowers, obviously flowers are beautiful, okay? It's nice to look outside and see some really pretty blossoms, intermingled with everything. But there's really great reasons for it because flowers bring in pollinators. Obviously, they also bring in the beneficial insects, predatory wasps, and whatnot. And, that's a great thing. A few of those to consider. I mentioned the nasturtium. That's great. You could just plant nasturtium everywhere. I don't believe that I haven't found any place that nasturtium doesn't do well. So I always do nasturtium. Just kind of scatter it about. Marigolds is the same way. I'm not a big fan of marigolds. I don't think that they're pretty. I think that they're ugly. But it doesn't matter to me what it looks like because it does its job. Marigolds are great throughout the garden. So if you have a handful and you just scatter them everywhere, it's probably still going to help you. Cosmos, that is a great flower to plant everywhere. I order Cosmos by the big package. It's got 5,000 seeds in it, and I'll just put them everywhere. They're really pretty flowers. It's a delicate looking plant, but they are terrific companions for most of the garden. So, in fact, I haven't found anything yet that is bad with Cosmos. So that's a good one to have. Something else to think about. Most people grow at least some sort of herbs, okay? You might have a culinary herb garden, like a kitchen garden, a chef's herb garden. And, you might grow basil and cilantro and parsley, something like that. They are all great in the garden. They all have their own jobs in the garden. So be sure and do a little research and find out which ones of those, the kind that you like, which ones of them grow better with, tomatoes or onions or whatever. But just, do your research on there. But there are a lot of them that are really terrific. For instance, I've already mentioned the basil. It's great with tomatoes and peppers and eggplant. Mint, all varieties. Mint is a great companion because of the fact that it repels cabbage moths and aphids and that kind of thing because of its pungent aroma. A tip here, though, do not plant mint in your garden bed unless it's also contained in some sort of pot in some way. Mint is invasive. And while it's wonderful, and I love mint, you do not want it taking over your garden beds. You will never get rid of it. Catnip. You know what? Catnip, this is where I differ with a lot of people. They suggest catnip as a companion for a lot of different things. And honestly, catnip makes a great tea. It's a great herbal remedy for a variety of things. But I made the mistake of planting catnip in one little tiny spot in my garden a few years ago. It went underneath the foundation of my greenhouse. It attacked my greenhouse. I'm still trying to get rid of it. And then it started showing up over by the barn and over across the garden. It is, if you want to talk about an invasive plant, catnip is in the mint family, same thing, but oh my gosh, it has a mind of its own. I will never again grow that. I do not care. I mentioned chamomile is a terrific companion plant. It's a flowering herb. Borage, wonderful, especially around your tomatoes. Calendula. I grow calendula everywhere. I use it in my salves and my herbal medicines. It's a beautiful plant, and it brings in all the pollinators and it wards off different bugs. It is a terrific plant to grow everywhere in your garden. I hope you guys have big gardens. I know mine can get really crowded because I love to grow so many plants. Comfrey is a wonderful plant to have as a companion. And here's the deal with comfrey. Has a long taproot. It goes, deep and pulls resources from areas that most regular garden plants their roots don't go there, so they don't get the resources from there. Comfrey goes down, grabs those resources and pulls them back up to the surface so that other surrounding plants can have the benefit of that. I plant comfrey. Actually, I plant it a little bit of everywhere, but I definitely plant it with my fruit trees because it's fantastic for them. It's fantastic to have right there next to them, and it helps them have the resources that they need. That's just a great companion plant, even for your fruit tree. There are so many reasons to consider and to do companion planting in your garden. And if you want to lean more to the natural side of things, you want to try and get away from the chemical, adding chemicals to your soil and to your plants and obviously to your harvest, then companion planting is a great way to go because it can help you do the same job of those chemicals without actually adding the chemicals. And it also adds to your soil. It helps you to put back in those elements that nature is just normally depleting when you grow things. So it's a terrific way to go. I hope that this has given you a little bit of information, a little bit of insight into how you go about getting started with companion planting. I have posted today on twoaksfarmtalk.com a post going into some decent detail on how companion planting works, what the benefits are. I also posted on that post a chart that I have. It's a companion planting chart in my book, Becoming Self-Sufficient. And that chart is now on the post on Two Oaks Farm Talk about the benefits of companion planting. If there are any questions about any of this, do not hesitate to contact me. You can comment, you can reach me through my various methods of social media. Be sure and follow and subscribe, all of that. Guys, if you want to watch the video broadcast of the podcast, you can get that at farmlifeandfreedom.com. Or if you do Spotify, it's on there, or my Farm Life and Freedom YouTube channel. You can get the video broadcast of this in those places. And then, of course, the audio version is across the spectrum in a lot of the different podcasting media. So if any of these, you guys can comment, you guys can let me know if there's something specific that you would like to know a little bit more about. If you'd like me to do some research on some of these things, I am more than happy to do so. I love anything having to do with gardening, especially. Now, on our next episode, I'm going to talk a little bit more deeply about getting everything off to a great start once you've got and get everything good and planted. Come back next time and see us again at Farm Life and Freedom Podcast and help us cultivate a free life.